My dear young friends, it is a real privilege to be invited by Ambedkar Periyar Study Circle to talk to you all at IIT-Madras campus. And I hope by the time we conclude today's discussion, we would have arrived at a more powerful understanding how to save IIT-Madras from being sold out. And not only how to prevent it from being sold out, we'll also arrive at a better understanding how to reconstruct IIT-Madras to serve the nation and the society better. I know when I was introduced, we were told that we are at the very doorstep of new education policy of 2015. I call it a new attack on education. I'll come to it towards the later part of my talk. I'll begin by sharing with you my own perceptions of how policies are formulated, why are they formulated, and for whose benefits they are formulated. So let me first begin by placing my basic hypothesis about policy formulation. There is a deliberately promoted misconception about policies. And that misconception is that the state, in our case Indian state, makes good policies which are implemented poorly or badly. There could be no bigger misconception than this. Because by doing this, you keep focusing your attention on implementation of policies and not on the policy makers. When you talk of implementation, naturally you talk of lower levels of bureaucracy. In the case of education, talk of poor school teachers, headmasters, block education officers. In the case of higher education, you think about the registrars, the bureaucrats of the university system, and so on and so forth. But this takes away, diverts our political attention from looking at the character of the Indian state. But when you start looking at the policy itself and not the implementation, your whole attention will focus on what the state is trying to do to the country. And after my extensive analysis and extensive participation in various government commissions and committees from 1980s onwards, I have come to this clear conception that all our policies in all facets of life, including education, are made with an anti-people perspective. And they are anti-people policies which are implemented most efficiently and completely. There is no failure in implementation. What the policy is designed for, policy achieves, invariably. I may not be able to fully substantiate what I am saying here, but please keep this hypothesis in mind as I keep talking around what I am going to do today. In order to understand the 2015 process and in order to understand why India is ready to hand over its higher education sector to GATS, and when I say higher education, please don't think about only colleges and universities. Think about all educational institutions above +2. Starting from ITIs, my tongue has now slipped. I said ITI, I did not say IIT. Starting from ITIs and Polytechnic, all the way up to engineering colleges, medical colleges, IITs of course, IISCRs, IIMs, all the triple ITs, all the latest variants of higher education are included. Higher education is higher education, +2, above +2. So, in order to understand what the new education policy is all about, I'll go into a bit of history, and I don't have enough time, given the constraints of time. I will make some assertions and let you ask questions and allow me to develop further if required. Otherwise, there are extensive writings on this subject by me and by many other people in the country and the world. I'll go back to 1986 policy. I'm cutting short the previous history of post-independence India and very important, crucial history of freedom struggle and even before freedom struggle started in the country. I'm cutting out all that in order to be able to convey what I want to convey. Look at the 1986 policy. When was when the 1986 policy was being formulated, that is 85-86 period, and presented to the parliament, just that was a period when neoliberal policies were being formulated by the global capital to attack Indian education. Just the beginning of that. This was years before the formal declaration of globalization was made by Government of India. Is there any doubts about what I am saying? Dr. Manmohan Singh, the architect of neoliberal policy framework in the post-globalization India, was in 1985 the financial advisor appointed by the World Bank in the Prime Minister's office. Later on he became the finance minister of the first government of the post-globalization India and was the architect of globalization policies. In 1985, in fact, it's obvious what I'm going to say when I say 1985 was a year when the name of Education Ministry was changed to Human Resource Development Ministry. If this change does not strike you in not being in consonance with the Constitution of India, then there's something wrong with us, not with those policymakers who change the names. The names are not changed just for the heck of it. Names are changed because there is a politics behind it. When you stop calling Education Ministry as Education Ministry and start calling it HRD Ministry, then you have an agenda in mind. And this is the first step taken by Government of India consciously to begin the process of neoliberalization or neo-colonization of Indian education. I'll touch upon only three major features of 86 policy to make this point. First is the school education. Next we'll deal with higher education. In 86 policy, it was decided, please listen to it carefully because you may not have ever heard of this statement which I am making. It was decided not to provide school to more than half of India's children. I hope you heard me correctly. It was decided not to provide school to more than half of India's children by saying that the child laborers, when they return home in the evening, they'll be provided for 2 hours only a non-formal center, non-formal education center, where there will be a lantern to show the light because there is no electricity in either in the slums, urban slums or in the villages. So, under a lantern, I'm not talking about adult literacy classes. Please don't mistake. I'm talking about education. I'm not talking about literacy at all. I'm talking about education. So, a non-formal education center will be provided where a so-called instructor, not called a teacher, deliberately, each word is decided by the policymakers with consciousness. There are no mistakes made by them. We make the mistakes. They don't make the mistakes. If we don't comprehend what they are doing, but they comprehend what they are doing. So, they called a person instructor, and a defined instructor need not have any eligible conditions for becoming a teacher, and could be even a high school certificate holder, or not even that if necessary, if no one is available in that area. And this instructor will be paid 200 rupees per month, 1987 figure. And this instructor will train, not teach, train these students in literacy and numeracy for 2 hours, and that will be enough. In the case of girls, it was stated that girls become free from domestic chores by afternoon. So wherever required, an afternoon non-formal center may be opened. Both of these policy decisions show to us that the Indian state made adjustment and compromises with child labor, decided to continue with child labor, and also with patriarchy, with gender discrimination, to make it simpler. Just a minute, it may start in here. I forgot to please do it. Sorry, this mistake. And this compromise with child labor is being made even though a substantial aspect of child labor is unconstitutional as per Part 3 of the Constitution. What will be provided to the rest of the people? Rest of the children, the population of children is about 20 crores. I'm talking 20 crore children. Rest of the children will be provided in Navodaya Vidyalaya, but not for all. Navodaya Vidyalaya will be provided in each district, one in each district, where in class 6, it will begin from class 6, not before that. In class 6, 80 children in each district will be selected through a test which will test their talent and merit. And those 80 children will be provided a high quality, high profile, well-financed education. 80 children per district. You can multiply 80 by 550 or 600, and that is the figure they decided to provide good education. What about the rest? Rest will be asked to go to ordinary government schools, whose, as I will show a little later, whose quality is going to be deliberately deteriorated year by year. So they'll get inferior quality education. They're destined to get inferior quality education. These were the decisions of 1986 policy. And these decisions were approved without a single dissenting vote by the Parliament of India. It raises major questions about our political parties, about the Parliament itself. I go to the second issue of this policy. It declared that on the basis of performance, certain number of colleges may be declared to be autonomous. Now, autonomous can be a very beautiful word in democracy. It says, all right, in a decentralized manner, under the framework of India's constitution, certain institutions can take their own decisions. I wish it stopped at that, but it did not stop at that. Autonomy in this case was a starting point of privatization. A college is declared to be autonomous, and soon after, the college will be told, you will not be provided adequate budget from next year onwards to start converting your courses into self-financing courses and make your own money. So steadily, that I'm talking about late 80s and early 90s, at that time the pace of neoliberal attack was much slower, so steadily we will do it. You can go on finding which course you want to convert to self-financing courses, and to that extent, to that proportion, your budget will be cut. And therefore you can take certain decisions on your own, and in that sense you are autonomous. So privatization was ceded in 86 policy. Third issue, again about higher education, said that there is too much politics happening on the campus. Too many Ambedkar Periyar study circles coming up. We cannot tolerate that. Students are there to study and not to create politics. Therefore, student unions have to be regulated or stopped altogether. Lingo comes much later, maybe 2 decades later. But the state knew that it has to stop politics. It cannot tolerate if Bhagat Singh on the campus of National College Lahore, creating a small little group, like you people have done in IIT-Madras, creating a small little group in 1920s, we start discussing imperialism and colonialism. That's not allowed, that's politics. You are here to study. And you are to study what we are going to teach you, not what you are going to find out on your own. No exploration, no investigation are going to be allowed, which are outside the framework of prescribed syllabus or curriculum. Therefore, Bhagat Singh is also not acceptable to 1986 policy. I must go faster, otherwise I won't be able to complete my subject. 1991 was, as you know, the declaration of globalization, which meant India's economic system is going to be opened up to the global capital for unregulated loot. And when this happened, World Bank and International Monetary Fund, two of the three most important Bretton Woods institutions. If you've not heard of Bretton Woods, just good to know that part of history. In the post-World War II phase, when Europe had been destroyed, and therefore with the destruction of Europe, the entire European market had been destroyed, and global capital did not have the capacity to take this shock. The whole market has been destroyed. Therefore, ways and means had to be devised by the global capital to not only save itself but also strengthen itself. Otherwise there will be a global financial crisis. So global capital under now the changed leadership of global capital from UK to USA, it was decided in a place called Bretton Woods in Canada in a meeting that will set up three important institutions. One was World Bank, second was International Monetary Fund, IMF, and third was GATT, General Agreement on Trade and Tariff, which I'll come to soon. So, World Bank and IMF told Government of India, after declaration of globalization in India, it told Government of India that you want loans from the market. We'll certainly give you loans, provided you agree to a condition called structural adjustment. Now, what was the condition called structural adjustment? See, no money lender gives you any loan without conditions. We know it. The people who come from rural India, if any are there at all, who belong to rural Tamil Nadu or rural districts or other parts of the country, you will know no money lender, no sahukar ever gives you loan without its condition. A condition can be very harsh. It can even include pawning off not just your land but also your daughters. So the biggest money lender of the world, World Bank, can be no different. It can be harsher than our money lenders. So World Bank put this condition called structural adjustment. And what does structural adjustment say? It said to Government of India that if you want loans, you have to agree to decline your public expenditure out of your budget, public expenditure on education, health, social welfare, all your social welfare programs, poverty alleviation, subsidies of various kinds, including subsidies under the social justice agenda to scheduled castes, scheduled tribe, Muslims and OBCs, disabled and women in particular in each section of this society. Women are most oppressed in each section of this society due to patriarchy. Government agreed. And due to structural adjustment condition, I am restricting myself to education, due to structural adjustment condition, in the years that followed, steadily public expenditure on education were declined by a policy, not by errors, not by computing errors, by policy. It declined. It was 4% in 1990, and by the end of the 1990s, it reached 3.5%. It's almost stayed at a plateau throughout the 2000s, and now it is declining even further, and with the recent withdrawal of funding, almost up to 13 to 14,000 crore rupees by the in the central budget, union budget, and also budget cuts by all state governments, and you are facing all yourself in IIT the threat of further budget cuts. You already had budget cuts, further budget cuts, which will lead to further increases in your fee structure, fee hikes. So, the public expenditure decline. Now some might wonder, often in my talk people say, what is this 0.5% business? How does it matter? Why are you making a big thing out of it? I hope you know, today India's GDP has crossed 130 lakh crores of rupees. 1% of that is 1.3 lakh crores of rupees. Half a percent of that is 65,000 crores of rupees. It's a big sum. If 65,000 crore rupees are added every year for next 10 years, there will be no shortage of funds in any public education structure. There will be no shortage of funds. And there will be no fee hikes anywhere in the country. In fact, there will be further subsidy, more stipends, scholarships, fellowships. Nobody will think of scrapping non-net UGC scholarship. There will be no need for it. Everything will be taken care of by the government. There is enough money for that. Yeah, if you have doubts about how much money is there, you can come back to it later. There's plenty of money for education. Now, how was the public expenditure decline? At the time of 1990-91, India had about 8 lakh government schools. And the number of private schools was almost negligible at that time. They were emerging very fast from 70s onward, but still very negligible compared to the huge figure of 8 lakh. The number of government school teachers at that time were 37 lakh, who were getting proper salaries with social security. So the government was told by World Bank experts that you have to do something about your teachers. Too many teachers on high salaries, although it was at that time third or fourth pay commission. Maybe fourth pay commission. How do you take care of salaries of the teachers? There are two ways we were told. One, why do you appoint regular teachers? Contractualize. All teachers should be on contract. So it was decided to undertake a major program of contractualization in 1993 onwards. To the extent that in 1995, the Chief Minister of my state, where I come from, Madhya Pradesh, declared, it's a very important declaration, applicable to the whole country, that teacher is a dying cadre. And since then, 95 announcement, since then, not a single regular teacher has been appointed in Madhya Pradesh from school system to higher education. Not a single teacher. All are on contracts. Under various variants of what is a contract teacher, under different names and lot of euphemism. I'll just stop for a while to give you a footnote on this. When neoliberal attack takes place, it does not take place under harsh language. Language has to be euphemized. It's very polite, beautiful language used. When it says education for all, it actually means education for none. We have to be alert about it. When it says we are going to make you a contract teacher, to give you beautiful names, call you Shiksha Mitra, Lok Mitra, short of calling you teacher, it will call you all kinds of names. So the contractualization went to the extent when my government, state government, and other governments also did similar thing, announced that we are going to, in order to educate, provide education to tribals, the scheduled tribals, STs, we are going to set up an education guarantee scheme. This was 1997. Education guarantee scheme, which meant no guarantee at all. Free for all. Under education guarantee scheme, the government wrote a policy that why do tribal hamlets require a building for school? Even one classroom building. Why is it required? After all, they have lots of trees. They can sit under a tree and teach their children. Why do they require, the government asked in their policy document, even one classroom? Because they have a lot of cattle for which they have created a little shack. So they can take their cattle out if it's raining outside and put their children there. And of course, the idea of instructor has been instituted in the non-formal centers in the late 1980s. So that was already there. So instructor at paltry sum with no proper eligibility, no pre-service training, no B.Ed, M.Ed, diploma in elementary education. Nothing is required as long as you are willing to write your name, and that is enough. This became later on the policy incorporated into the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan of 2000s, known as Education Guarantee Scheme. So I'll come to that a bit later. So as this was progressing, in mid-90s, the World Bank said, why do you need a separate classroom and a separate teacher for 5 classes of primary school? Look at their courage to ask such questions. Why do you require it? Can you not have a single classroom in primary school and one teacher who can deal with the syllabi of 5 classes? We had no choice but to say yes. So a new concept, again with euphemism, was introduced in India called multi-grade teaching. Look at the imagination of the World Bank people. Multi-grade teaching was introduced where we were trained so that one teacher can handle the syllabi of 5 classes in a single classroom. As long as these are children of the lower caste and lower classes, which comprises more than 80% of India's population. As long as these are the children. As far as your children and your brothers and sisters are concerned, they will be provided one separate teacher for each classroom. And on multi-grade teaching, like the rest of World Bank program in India called District Primary Educational Program, DPEP, all this was done by extending loans to us, which we are still returning. We have to complete the return of the loan. So even destruction of our whole school system with multi-grade teaching was also with loans given to us, and we are paying back. Why was it done? People ask, why is World Bank interested in destroying India's public education system? It's because only by destroying public education system, you can private schools. And by the end of 90s, huge market for private school had been opened up. Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan incorporated all these lacunae and distortions of education policy and put it in finer language and became part of the 10th five-year plan to be implemented. Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan announced that by the time we come to 2010, we will be able to provide 8 years of elementary education to all children. I hope you recall, this is a promise of the Constitution. In part 4 of the Constitution, Directive Principle, Article 45 is said, within 10 years of the commencement of the Constitution, all children up to 14 years of age will be provided free, compulsory elementary education of 8 years. It was not filled up in 1960, not filled up in end of 90s when 86 policy was made. It was not filled up. 86 policy said we will certainly fulfill the constitutional goal by 1995. When 1995 came, it amended itself in 1992 with help of Parliament and said, all right, we are not doing it up to 95, we'll do it by the end of 2000. When the 2000 came, it's too difficult to do it. So Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan declared, will fulfill the constitutional goal by 2010. And the Right to Education Act 2009 came. It gave no target years. It realized we cannot do it. Given the policy framework, it cannot be done. Ever. We can meet in 2050 if I'm alive. And I can again tell you it will not be filled up unless there's a radical transformation in our policy framework. An Indian state is not ready for any radical transformation. A school system or entire education system rooted in inequality and discrimination, promoting multi-layered educational institutions from schools to colleges and universities, is incapable of universalizing quality education. Incapable. Our entire perspective on education is such that we can never universalize good quality education up to any stage, up to 5 years, 8 years, 10 years of education, 12 years, anything you can. The decade of 2000 was the beginning of attack on higher education. To take things one by one. They first destroyed school education, now comes the turn of higher education. And the signal for this was given by the Indian government, Dr. Murli Manohar Joshi, who presented a country paper at UNESCO conference in which he said that higher education benefits only the individual, not the society. Please look at these formulations are very important. These conceptual statements become the basis of what is going to be done in policies and programs. So he said to the UNESCO that higher education only benefits the individual, is for her or his own benefit, does not benefit society. Therefore, it cannot be considered a public good. That means an education which helps a society. It's not a public good. It's a merit good. These are the terms from emerging trade mechanism. It's a merit good and it only helps an individual. Therefore, why should individual not pay for it? By asking this question, he was repeating what World Bank had already stated in 1990. Not only to India, to the whole world. Where World Bank declared that every student is like a user of a service and therefore there are user charges which every student must pay. User charges. This concept from 1990 World Bank report, which the great patriotic NDA government lapped up and said, yes, World Bank is right. All students in higher education at least must pay the user charges. In year 2000, as you all recall, the famous or infamous Ambani-Birla report was presented not to HRD Minister, but to the Prime Minister's Economic Affairs Council. I don't need to expand upon it, the meaning of presenting an education report to Economic Affairs Council. Authored by two of the greatest educationists India has ever seen, Mukesh Ambani and Kumar Mangalam Birla. I might also add here that in fine prints on the front cover, in the inside of the front cover, it is written that the report was actually authored in Chennai, in your state, in your city, in Chennai by a computer company. Computer company did not only do word processing or typing, it authored a report while doing word processing for Ambani and Birla. Naturally, it did what Ambani and Birla wanted. The report was given to Prime Minister's office. It became a matter of big debate. all over there were protests by student organization, teacher organization against it, but it was implemented fully. It is still being implemented, despite public protests. The three elements of Ambani Birla report I will highlight. One, it said education is not for social development. What is it for? It is for promoting market and profit. Second, if government wants, it can continue to provide financial support to elementary education up to class 8. It can begin to withdraw slowly from public support to secondary and senior secondary education, but it need not provide any public support to higher education because global market is ready to take care of higher education. Third, when the market takes over higher education, Ambani Birla report argued that all disciplines which have a market value will be totally taken care of by market. All disciplines. Therefore, their knowledge content will be regulated and controlled by the market needs, not by the needs, internal needs of the discipline in question or the needs of the society. Therefore, in physics, market will decide whether it is important to teach quantum physics or not. If quantum physics does not have any sellable value anymore, then only some applied physics will be taught. In my own field, molecular biology, market will decide whether is any importance left anymore to teach how double helix structure of DNA was discovered and how double helix structure actually enabled DNA to replicate genetic information from one generation to another generation. It's not important because no further research is required to decode the genetic code. Therefore, let's only talk about applied aspect, which is biotechnology. These are marketable. This is precisely why biotechnology courses will open up so rapidly all over the country. And similarly in political science, languages, literature, in all fields. Therefore, English literature is no more important. What is important is communicative English. Communicative English is important for tourism, is important for banking, important for all BPO work. So it's communicative English which is important. Also with American accent is very important. Otherwise, if you speak with Indian accent or African accent, there is no importance at all. So it is not just a attack on the structure of education system or its access to masses of India, it's an attack on the very knowledge structure of education. It's an epistemological attack, epistemic attack. We must recognize it. Otherwise, keep talking about fee hikes. We have to transcend the question of. I'm not saying don't talk about fee hikes. We can begin by mobilizing ourselves on the issue of fee hikes so that we can also question the epistemic attack on our education system, on our knowledge itself. Ambani Birla report was also written at the same time when the NDA government was proposing public-private partnership as a major tool of development. In fact, the manifesto of BJP in 1999 talked about public-private partnership in education. The only political party which talked about PPP in education was the BJP. So don't be surprised if PPP becomes a very basis of entire new education policy. It's their policy, their understanding. And Prime Minister's office formed a PPP committee in the year 2000 and was given the mandate, one in the social sector, another in infrastructure sector. In both sectors, the committee worked. And irony is, in 2004, with the great victory of UPA, one thought all the faults of the previous government will be undone. On the contrary, all those lacking and faults in our viewpoint became the very basis for UPA policies. The UPA extended the PPP agenda, and irony is this, that the very committee of PPP constituted by the previous government with the same members was given an extension for 1 year and now instituted in Planning Commission of India. And about 10 months later, the same people who were working in PPP committee in the NDA government gave its report, and that report has been now implemented already. I hope you go back and recall what I said. All policies are implemented successfully. Please don't tell us that policies are only there to show they are not implemented. They have been implemented. It's a history of implementation of policies. And what is PPP? It's called public-private partnership. In our understanding, is public-private loot. Because there is somebody said in Bangalore yesterday, why is public word is there? Because only a privatization issue. So let's remove the public word. I said, no. If you remove public word, whom will they loot? Public has to be part of PPP. There is nothing to loot. When state offers money to private parties, only then the loot begins. So PPP is now the basic framework of education. In 2007, Dr. Manmohan Singh, addressing the Planning Commission as a chairperson, said, henceforth, all new educational development will take place on the basis of PPP. And he was not wrong. This is what happened. I've written a whole booklet in Hindi on PPP in education. So if you want to translate it into Tamil, you can do that. I'll be very happy and honored if it goes into Tamil. I'll give you examples of PPP. Very many examples can be given, but I'll give you some very simple example. We'll also talk about how much money is there in the Indian state. In 2005, when I was working in Central Advisory Board of Education and was one of the most vociferous critic of what was happening there. So one day when I was entering the Vigyan Bhavan for a meeting, one undersecretary of the ministry, HRD, called me aside and said, just come here and take this document from me. And just keep it in your bag. So I took this document and said, don't tell anyone that I gave it to you. Read it, you will like it. So I sitting in Vigyan Bhavan, I read it quickly. And you know what it was about? It was about a committee constituted by HRD ministry to find out how much has been the revenue loss in that year, that financial year, the previous financial year, by exempting income tax on private schools, on the profits made by private schools. So how much is the revenue loss? And in 2004-05, that revenue loss was 5,000 crores of rupees. Since then, privatization has gone up by several fold, not just school education, higher education as well. If that report, that was a confidential report, it said confidential. And when I used that report immediately, a few minutes later, I got up and make a point of order. Look, there is so much money being lost, happily by Government of India, by not charging income tax on the profits made by private schools. I was told, how did you find out? I said, that's not the point. The point is, why are you doing it? Then I was denied permission to continue. Naturally, I will be denied permission to continue. It was not put in the minutes that somebody, member raised this issue. Anyway, that's a different matter. So there is a major revenue loss being happily accepted by the Indian state. The same state which says we don't have money. Now it will be running into lakhs of crores of rupees. The same government also exempts the corporate India Incorporated 6.5 lakh, 6 lakhs to 6.5 lakh crores of rupees as tax exemption given every year after the budget is approved. After every union budget this happens. For the last 10 years it is happening. The same Indian state, its Reserve Bank tells us, exempts to the tune of 60 to 70,000 crore rupees as bad loans, unpayable loans to the big corporate houses. The same state tells us there is no money for education, no money for health, and no money for the farmers who are committing suicides because they have not been able to pay back 5,000 rupees worth of loan. There is no dearth of money. I want to say this at this juncture and make the assertion that India today is a rich country whose masses are poor. We live with this irony. I think there's enough background now. With budget cuts in higher education, all institutions being forced all over the country to either stop teaching or convert their courses one by one into self-financing. Only those courses can be converted into self-financing which have a market value, where students can get placement. So as I said in the morning press conference also, that Tamil literature, teaching Tamil literature may not fetch any money. There is no placement which will get you a placement of 6-digit or 7-digit package. So Tamil literature will not be taught in future. There is no value for it. Similarly, maybe painting will not be taught. As already Right to Education Act 2009 has decided, no primary school will ever teach painting or music or sports or games. No physical education program in any primary school. Right to Education Act 2009. It also says for upper primary school class 6 to class 8, half of the schools will not be given any teachers of fine arts or physical education. These are stated clearly in Right to Education Act, which is so much glamorized all over. I will not stop at Right to Education. That's a separate subject altogether. My special love affair. In public, not in private. It's a public love affair. This is Right to Education Act. Friends, it is in this background we'll talk about GATS, higher education being handed over to GATS, and the new education policy, which are going to get probably at the beginning of January. It's already being drafted very fast. As you were told, J.S. Rajput, the architect in first NDA 1 period of education policy, as the then director of NCERT, is now one of the 4 authors of the policy. If he was not there, it would have been Dinanath Batra. And I have a feeling it is Dinanath Batra who has already drafted the policy. These 4 people are going to sign it. But Dinanath Batra is more a member of the core Sangh Parivar than J.S. Rajput. It's already drafted. I'm quite sure it's drafted. What has GATS to do with it? I remember it's a little story. In 2011, when All India Forum for Right to Education decided to approach all the major political parties with a memorandum to draw their attention to higher education offer pending with the GATS, WTO-GATS since 2005, and with an appeal to withdraw. This is in 2011. We've been doing it since 2009, since we started our work. Every year we go to some authorities to do this. So we went to all political parties. I remember I was part of AIFRTE delegation to Vice President Congress Party in 2011, Mr. Rahul Gandhi. And he had already had the soft copy, but he was now reading the hard copy in front of us and going through it very quickly, and then stopped at me. He started reading it again, and I saw his eyes moving on one sentence. I knew where it was. Physically, I knew the memorandum. He said, I thought you come to talk to me about education. I said, yes, we come to talk to you about education. What does WTO has to do with education? In 2011, Vice President of Congress Party asking a delegation. What does education have to do with trade? Please talk to me about education, not about trade. I said, Mr. Gandhi, mistaken. We are talking about education, not about trade. Education is with WTO because your government decided to make it a tradable commodity. The 2005 offer of the UPA 1 was a revised offer. The earlier, more ambiguous offer was made by Indian government, was made more precisely by UPA 1. So Mr. Gandhi failed to understand and he stopped the discussion with us. He said, no, I cannot discuss trade. I want to discuss education with you. So he refused to talk to us. Whether it was deliberate or not deliberate, it was innocence or consciously saying, I think it was not innocent. He knew what he was talking about and didn't want to face his truth. It happened with all political parties. So what is happening right now? If this offer, revised offer made in 2005 August, is not withdrawn before 15 December, very close. I have come to Chennai all the way to appeal to you to join hands so that it is withdrawn before 15 December. Only 2 weeks left. Before means 2 weeks only. 14 December we should withdraw. Why 15 December? On 15 December, the 10th Ministerial Conference of WTO will open its negotiations in Nairobi, capital of Kenya. It will go on up to 18th December. You cannot withdraw after 10th Ministerial Conference begins. Why has the 2005 revised offer not been finalized so far? Not because Government of India did not want to finalize. It has not been finalized because Doha round of negotiations started at Doha in year 2000 in another previous ministerial conference have not been completed so far. Very important to understand Doha round. Doha round is when in the ministerial conference all agreements are not reached, some are disagreed areas, then the member countries are asked to continue negotiations after the ministerial conference ends. So the Doha round of negotiations have been continuing for the last 15 years. They got stuck on the issue of subsidies to agriculture and food. On this, there is a major contradiction between underdeveloped and least developed poor countries on the one hand and advanced capitalist nations. Advanced capitalist nations want us to drop all subsidies in the agriculture sector, while they themselves give huge amount of subsidies to their farming sector. But you should drop so that your products do not compete with us. And it will be a suicidal step, not just for the farmers, for the government also in India when it agrees to do so, but the government is under pressure of the global trade. So negotiations have been going on. Many other countries are involved in this. They have not been concluded. Now we have strange signals coming that they are going to be concluded. That will be my last point. How will they be concluded? Earlier we should think until 2-3 months ago, in June, when we decided to rebuild the campaign against committing higher education to GATS in June when we started, we used to think is that Doha rounds are going to be concluded. Now we know, and please remind me if I forget to say this, now Doha round will be left aside, something else will be done. More dangerous than Doha rounds. When Doha round was completed on 15th of December or whenever they are completed, our offer, pending offer will automatically become a commitment that will be irrevocable. There will be no way to revoke it once it becomes irrevocable commitment. Some people will ask, is there an option left for the government not to offer higher education? Yes, plenty of option was available. African Union in 2003, 2 years before we made the offer, took a united decision not to offer his higher education or any aspect of education to GATS, and it wrote a very powerful sentence how that will be the death of African education system. European Union, entire European Union, including UK, decided not to offer his higher education or any other aspect of education to GATS. 2 major blocks of countries. The numbers may be almost touching 70 or 80, or maybe even more. They decided not to do it. So what was the compulsion for us? We could have easily said we won't give it to you. We could be part of the bloc which said no to WTO. We not only said yes to WTO in education, we also went several steps further. There is a provision in WTO-GATS to decide what not to offer. In every provision of WTO, I will mention a couple of provisions a little later, in every provision there is a flexibility, so you can say I am doing this, I am agreeing to this provision with these exemptions. I am holding that revised offer in my hand. We were with great difficulty able to get it out of website of WTO recently, because this entire matter is top secret. Government of India has not informed the Parliament of India it is ready to sell out its higher education. And education being a concurrent subject is not just the Parliament of India which is concerned, all our state governments are concerned. Therefore, state assemblies should have been taken into confidence. There is total secrecy. Therefore, even Parliament members do not know. No, they did not know until 3 or 4 days ago. And now our letters have gone to all the 650 odd Parliament members. They informed them. We have told all Parliament members the truth about GATS. The state governments still do not know. And everywhere I am going around and my colleagues are going around talking about this issue, we just keep hearing. We never knew it. Maybe. So it's a top secret. So it's very difficult to find out. But we did find out, and we discovered the Government of India under various provisions, 5 or 6 important provisions, have not sought any exemption from any aspect of the provision. In all exemptions say none, 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 none. That is a total salute. On the contrary, China has also offered a higher education. But with so many exemptions to each provision, that finally it will amount to that China can invest in India, but India cannot invest in China. It's a game which you have already lost, politically lost. What are those provisions? I'll just mention a couple of them. That should be enough, maybe one more. It's a very difficult document to decode, deconstruct, but we have managed to do that. I'll make it very simple. There is a provision called national treatment. Again, you see the neoliberal language. When you read national treatment, you start thinking, oh, it's something about my nation, in favor of my nation. Just the opposite. Under national treatment, all the member countries are told, in all trade, in all sectors, including education, that no government will make any scheme, any program, or any policy, or make any budget allocation which will be to the detriment of level playing field for the corporate sector. You will not do anything, we are told, which will undo the level playing field. You have to maintain level playing field for the corporate sector. When our constitution said you provide equality and maintain equality in society, we rejected it. But now we'll accept equality for corporate sector. How our constitutional values are being turned upside down, you must think about it. You must ponder over it. Very serious crisis, not just about higher education. Crisis of our whole values and our aspirations of the freedom struggle, which are incorporated into our constitution. So, what does that mean practically? It means that if Madras University is given a grant by UGC of 50 crores or IIT-Madras is given to modernize your library system and make it widely accessible to all students, then level playing field concept demands that the same grant of 50 crores will have to be given to the universities set up by Westinghouse, by Microsoft, or by Suzuki, by anybody else. If you cannot do it, level playing field means then you shall not provide any grant, any support to the state universities, state colleges. State means Indian state, right? To government colleges, government universities. What does that mean? Just imagine, it means no salary grants will be coming. No salary grant will make the level playing field unlevel, uneven. It will be favoring your university. That is not in the best interest of corporate capital. You cannot do this. So, all funding will be steadily stopped. All kinds of funding will be stopped. All subsidies to higher education will come to halt. And all education institutions, higher education sector will be forced, will be compelled to adopt the path of total commercialization. Not just privatization, but also commercialization. All courses will become self-financing courses. I am speaking here, next time after GATS, when you want to take this hall, this market cost will be quoted. Not just a subsidized cost decided by your management, but a market cost will be quoted. And then question will be asked, who is this person? Who is speaking against the Indian state, against global market, global capital? How are you even allowing it? This knowledge cannot be shared on the campus of IIT-Madras. IIT-Madras then will belong to global capital, not to the Indian state. Not to the people of this country. You abide by their knowledge paradigm. You cannot have your own national paradigm or your constitutional paradigm or paradigm of freedom and liberty. These are very important. Then another regulation, another provision called domestic regulation. Again, it conveys to me when I started reading it the first time, was something about freedom to regulate within our country, domestic regulation. Just the contrary. It says no laws, no scheme, no policies can be made by the government if it is going to disturb the freedom given to corporate capital. And to keep tab on you, there is a special TPRM. It says trade policy review mechanism. TPRM will keep an eye on all such governments which are making their own policies and following their own constitution. The moment you start violating, not the constitution, the moment you start violating the rules of the GATS, you'll be told, you'll be tapped on your back, you'll be told nothing to you. You cannot do it. You won't believe this means that TPRM agents will sit on the corridors of parliament and legislative assemblies to ensure no such decisions are made. You will have no option there. Because you made a commitment to all the rules and sought no exemption. Even if you sought exemption, there will be other ways of controlling you because you have gone into their trap. There is one more, as I said, I'll take one more. That is called independent regulatory authorities. You already have these IRAs in electricity, in water, already working. In telecommunication, these are IRAs. IRAs are not responsible to the Parliament of India or to the legislatures in the states. Whom are the global capital? And these IIMs are already working. They have shown that they will not listen to Government of India, not listen to state government. They only listen to what the global capital or their agents in India, the Indian capital sector. Those sectors are already gone beyond this. So a decision was made. First there was a recommendation in the Sam Petroda Knowledge Commission to set up a IRA. They gave some name for it. Then came, this was 2008, 2009, Yashpal Committee report also said the same thing. Unfortunately, Yashpal's name is associated with many good ideas, but in this case, it was a sellout again. Yashpal Committee said, yes, UEC, Medical Council of India, AICTE, Bar Council of India, National Council of Teacher Education, so on and so forth, all these regulatory bodies and grant-giving bodies should be abolished and replaced by a higher education council, higher education research council. And a bill for setting up higher education research council was one of the 6 bills tabled by UPA2 in the parliament to facilitate the way for WTO to enter. Already there. Now it has lapsed. So the government will come with a new name for the same bill. Because you cannot say we are going to pass the UPA2 rules, it will use a different name and do the same thing. IRA is a very dangerous profession to agree to. Then things have been, we have put a stamp on how you will work outside the structure of our constitution. I think this should be enough. But the attack on knowledge is a serious matter for us. Problem is, we are fighting in their ground. This war zone has been created by WTO-GATS, by the global capital. We walk into their trap and they say, no, we don't want this, this is problematic, that is problematic. You cannot fight this battle in this way. But it's very important to keep fighting. There's a tragic story when the WTO started coming into India in 1990 onwards. At that time, it was General Agreement of Trade and Tariffs only on manufactured goods. In the next few years, it became GATT 1994. Then it incorporated many other features of manufactured goods, enlarged the market for capital, and also a scope for regulating the domestic doings in manufactured goods. GATT 1994. That was how new markets were being opened. And it was in that very year that education and health were viewed as services and GATS was created, General Agreement of Trades and Services was created. But it's all their war zone. And at that time, our political party which were opposing, especially the left party, Democratic left party, which are opposing the GATT agenda, GATT. I do not know in which nation and which people did it, but it is more than 5,000 years ago. And that knowledge is when a circle is rotated around its axis, is converted into linear motion. It starts moving. It becomes a wheel. That knowledge is more than 5,000 years, probably was generated in many countries of the world by previous generations. Can we patent it? Let's patent it. And the global capital will come to a halt. There will be a major crisis of capitalism. Capitalism will stop moving. It cannot move without wheels. Can you imagine capitalism moving without wheels? That will be our war zone. Let's think creatively, imaginatively, create our battle zone and bring them into our battle zone to fight, then we can really win. Otherwise, we have to keep on fighting year after year with new attacks. Friends, the new economic policy is being made to legitimize, justify all of this background, all what has happened. And one example should be enough. It has decided that we'll create a skilled India. Sounds very good. Again, like euphemism and neoliberalism, it is not telling the truth. I mean, we were never determined to create an unskilled India. Was there ever a policy to make an unskilled India? Otherwise, why would we have opened ITIs and polytechnics? Or why IITs were opened? To create a skilled India. They were always there. Skilled India was always an agenda. So what was the need to talk about skilled agenda now? The need is of imperialism. We have been told by our honored Prime Minister that India will become the largest supplier of skilled workforce to the world. And he will do it. This is another policy which will be implemented successfully. How will it be done? It will be done by excluding children from education. It's a very important concept to grasp. In education, skill development was always a part of education. The three major areas of education which are recognized. One is cognition, knowledge. Another is value formation, which is related with emotions. It's known as affective zone of education. And the third dimension is skill. And Gandhi, in 1937, when addressing the All India Education Conference as part of freedom struggle in Wardha, Maharashtra, made this point, elaborated this point. He said, what is education for if it does not ensure knowledge, values and skills? And therefore productive work, as he envisaged, productive work should be the basis for deriving knowledge, building values and forming skills. Gandhi said what all education have always known. Skill is an integral part of education. There will be no problem with skill. The problem comes when you start separating skill out of education. And you start saying we have to create skilled workforce. So when you start doing it, you require to deprive children from education. And the agenda is ready to deprive all children coming from the lower caste and lower sections of society, lower classes and lower caste from education after class 5, not after class 10 or 12. They will be deprived. They will be told, you come from poor family, your parents are waiting for you to come to start earning money, so we will give you a skill, a low wage earning skill like welding, electricity or repair or something else. Or if nothing else, at least in Swachh Bharat there will be adequate scope for low wage earning skills. That's why Swachh Bharat is all linked, interlinked. Swachh Bharat is linked with Skill India. And will create a huge skilled workforce. But skilled workforce in this manner is a very dangerous workforce. Because skilled people also know how to think. They also know how to ask questions. They also know how to disagree. They also know how to debate. So this skilled workforce will be unacceptable until unless it is trained not to think, not to ask questions, not to debate, not to disagree. Only then it becomes a pliable workforce for the global market. Therefore, an uncritical education, unscientific education has to be the very basis of entire education program in order to build a skilled workforce for global market. That will be a skilled enslaved workforce. Will not ask any question. So you will be probably thinking, why are we being told about it? This is about low wage earning skilled workforce. Friends, I am talking about you. You are high profile skilled workforce. The global market needs your knowledge of engineering, needs knowledge of mathematics, needs knowledge of nuclear physics, needs knowledge of information technology in which you are being trained. You will be high profile, but you should be pliable. You will be very dangerous if you begin to ask questions when you are employed in Silicon Valley. You are not allowed to ask questions in Silicon Valley. Therefore, you must be educated, you must be cultured, you must be prepared in such a manner that you make major, not structural adjustment like we were asked to make in 1991. You will be asked to make cultural adjustments so that you will not disagree with your multinational, transnational, which will employ you, will give you big packages. And see, Ambedkar, Periyar Study Circle, I have told only 7 or 8 people are there. My gosh, 7 or 8 people became a danger to the whole institution of IIT and to the Ministry of HRD. 7 or 8 people, maybe 10, 15, 20, I do not know how many. The core members may be very small. But then we also recall that Bhagat Singh Hindustan Socialist Republican Association had only a dozen members. And the dozen members became a threat to British rule. While the huge Congress party never became a threat to the British rule. Please think about it. It's true. Whenever my colleagues in All India Forum start becoming very disappointed, oh look, we have held so many parliament rallies, so many demonstrations in all districts of India, yeah, we have had lathi charges and all that. Nobody listening to us. So look, you are at least few hundred. Bhagat Singh had only 12 colleagues. Yet, they not only threatened British rule, but forced British rule to do what they wanted to do. Then they were ready to be hanged after that. That's a different story. Friend, it's not a matter of how many of you are. It's a matter whether you are willing to fight for your liberty and freedom or not. What about, you'll say, you not talked about communalization or saffronization of education. I don't say saffronization. Saffron is a beautiful color. Why do you want them to appropriate all the good things of our country? Don't hand over saffron color. I'm making a plea. Call it communalization, which it is. I have not talked about communalization because communalization's divisive agenda is part of imperialism. It's not separate from imperialism. You divide the society so that the society cannot fight back against the trap of global capital. If you do not do this, the entire working class will be united. If you do not do this, then the entire country will be focused today on saving our higher education before 15th of December from WTO. It's true what I'm saying. We approached the Gandhians few months ago with a plea to come out and start opposing WTO-GATS, a big Gandhian organization with units all over the country, including Tamil Nadu. And there were people from Tamil Nadu sitting in that meeting in Gujarat. I approached them. I said, look, what would Gandhi have done in this situation? Who was burning clothes of Lancashire and Manchester, who was picking up a pinch of salt because he was being taxed by the British government. What would he have done? They all agreed he would have stood up against WTO-GATS. I said, what about you people? Was surviving and living under the name of Gandhi. So they agreed, we will oppose. When I approached them towards the end of November, I asked them, are you ready to join hands with us when we do All India Resistance Camp at Jantar Mantar, New Delhi, from 7th of December to 14th of December, would you join us? They said, no, there is a problem. We have decided that Dadri is a more important issue. We are taking a rally out from Dadri to Delhi. You know what Dadri is. Dadri to Delhi, so that the Gandhian ideas of a secular state are retained. They are right. I fully agree. I said, look, I wish I had time, I will join you also. But now Dadri has diverted attention from all kinds of neoliberal attacks on India. On water, health, on transport, electricity. All sectors of life, on agriculture, more importantly than anything else. Because you do multiple attacks on India, and then you divide Indian society along the communal lines of caste lines, or language, linguistic, or regions. You cannot come to Bombay because you have spoken something which the Shiv Sena doesn't like, and so on and so forth. And by doing this, you disable the people of India, incapacitated them by waging a united struggle against global capital. And therefore I have concluded, at a great risk to myself, I have concluded that Sangh Parivar is nothing but, at least has now become nothing but an agency of the global capital. Beyond this, I will not spend time. Rest is all what you keep reading. What is the last part? Epilogue. Epilogue is what we now learning, that this whole thing we are fighting about, that before Doha rounds are concluded, our higher education should be withdrawn. Now we find out that Doha rounds are stuck on many important issues. So the global capital has now created a new strategy. We said you can go to hell now with the Doha round negotiation. Whatever you agreed will be accepted in the Nairobi conference. Whatever is not agreed, we'll say forget it. Now we're going to trap you by different ways. So there's a TISA. You can Google it, you'll find now documents coming out of TISA. Trade in Service Agreement. This TISA says, it tells us that Doha round was stuck. If they remain stuck, there will be global financial crisis. Capital will start falling apart, which has begun to falling apart in the decade of 2000. At least 3 times it has happened. And the 4th time it was the Asian economy falling apart. So it said, TISA said, this cannot be allowed. So some nations which are more pliable have been identified by European Union and by United States, and the more pliable nation, which interestingly Pakistan is listed, not India. More pliable than us. We are also pliable, but they are more pliable than us. They have been identified, listed, not China. China is not being allowed. They want to come into TISA negotiations, but they have been kept out by United States. But Taiwan has been included. Very intelligent. And TISA is now going to, these are large number of nations, maybe 40-50 nations, including UK. Now TISA agreement will be far more fierce than WTO ever imagined. It's total top secret now. It says WikiLeaks have made these documents available, otherwise we would not have access. Thanks to WikiLeaks. We know it says that for 5 years after TISA has been implemented, until 5 years after, no information about this will be released by the member countries. Top secret, totally undemocratic in this respect. That means your parliament, your legislature cannot debate it, your judiciary cannot talk about it, your opposition parties cannot talk about it, your media cannot talk about it, your academics and intellectuals cannot write an EPW about it. These are the top secret. It announces. No discussion should take place because it's so dangerous to everyone. And then it says, once the member countries of TISA agree upon, there will be a big block of countries, then they will take TISA on the tables of WTO and say agree upon it. They force the WTO, rest of the countries who are not part of it, to agree upon it. And already there is a Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, there is Transatlantic, there are different names for it, that's names that don't matter, Transatlantic Agreement on which many of these things have been agreed upon, and therefore all these blocks, various blocks, are ready to force WTO to accept what it is saying. That is the manner, the strategy in which global capital is going to rule over it. It says again and again, if you don't do this, there will be a global financial crisis. I will just read out, conclude with this very interesting statement. Yes. In the TISA document says, yes, countries like Brazil and India have been very critical of TISA, and the US has not allowed China to join. But the pressure on WTO members will be immense. If this plan did succeed, then many South governments, which are the global South, includes us, many South governments that resisted the worst demands of the GATS and the services aspects of the Doha round will find that they end up with something even more severe and more damaging from the TISA document. Therefore, keep it secret. We are in a crisis. But when crisis is there, we cannot take it lying down. We have to fight back. All of us have to fight back. You have to fight back. Everyone has to fight back. We have today at least 400 government-funded universities. We got at least 25,000 colleges which are funded by the government. Whether private or not, they are aided by the government. There are engineering colleges, medical colleges of high quality, IITs, IISCRs and triple ITs. They belong to the people of this country. I do not know, I don't have the data on what is the size of academia. But academia has preferred to keep silent. But we cannot keep silent. I go back to Gandhi. I hope I will not be criticized for referring to Gandhi. I go back to Gandhi. When he wrote in 1908, Hind Swaraj, in that he wrote, it's a dialogic style between Mr. Gandhi and a journalist, Gandhi again, journalist asking questions and Mr. Gandhi answering. And the journalist asked Mr. Gandhi that you are an advocate, lawyer of repute, yet you criticize the profession of lawyers. Why are you doing this? He said, because the British Empire has set up the judicial system in India and is telling us that you never knew how to provide justice to your people in your centuries of traditions. You never knew. So we will tell you how to provide justice. And our lawyers, including me, by practicing in that court, British court, we legitimize and justify and increase the credibility of the British judicial system. And he went on to say, if our lawyers, we'll draw our own lesson from it. If our lawyers decide not to practice in the British court, I am convinced, he said, that the very roots, the foundation of the British Empire will begin to shake. I just use this as an analogy for me, and I'll make the statement and conclude, friends, that if the members of Indian academia, even 10% of them, raise their voice and stand in solidarity against what has been done to India's education, what is yet to be done to India's education, the most powerful forces in our country, sitting at the very top, will have to rethink their agenda. And the message will go to Washington, D.C. and New York, where headquarters of World Bank and WTO exist. If African Union can take a stand, why can we not? We can. Let's save our higher education, the entire education system from any further attacks. Thank you. Disagreements, elaboration, clarification, all welcome. Dissent is most welcome.
I just want to know your opinion on the connection between you mentioned about there's a kind of nexus between the way RSS works and the way WTO works, right? It's a nexus probably is developed recently, right? It's a nexus which developed recently, because the old RSS thing is more in line with Gandhi ideology of developing indigenous industry, against MNCs, right? So, how was it that suddenly the RSS deviated from its nationalist agenda, and do you see when that bifurcation started? Because it's a nationalistic agenda, right? Like RSS. Right?
I would ask a counter question. What is the evidence that RSS pursued a nationalist agenda? Ever?
No, like for example,
I understand. We'll talk about Swadeshi.
No, I'm talking about Govindacharya sometime back.
Govindacharya had to leave.
Yeah.
He had to leave because he was serious about Swadeshi.
Yeah, exactly.
So he had to be ousted.
So, but now probably it's modified his agenda. I know. I'm wondering how.
Yeah, no, I'll talk about how it's modified also. But when did it follow? During the entire freedom struggle, we stood on the side, watching the whole struggle happening. And there's no evidence that they ever participated in any aspect of freedom struggle. No evidence recorded. The only evidence comes about Veer Savarkar when he was arrested and put in Andaman prison. And then he sought apology, and in his letter of apology he said, "We will never fight with you, British Empire." These are all facts. I'm not making them up. And it continues to have a problem in acknowledging the 1857 struggle was a united struggle of both Hindus and Muslims against British Empire. It is never acknowledged. Please find any evidence, any document of Sant Parivar where it says that yes, at least once Hindus and Muslims fought together. You cannot say that because it will go against the whole philosophy of Sant Parivar to accept that it would be solidarity amongst people irrespective of their religion or language or whatever it is. This one. But your question is very important to answer. So what happened to his so-called Swadeshi agenda, all the big talk about Swadeshi, what happened to it? Ask Govindacharya, he'll have better answer. But I'll answer give you an answer. Within a month after Prime Minister Modi took the reins of the government, a very interesting report came in an intellectual Hindi newspaper. It's an intellectual kind of Hindi newspaper. And it's an amazing report which came. The writer wrote that few days ago, Mohan Bhagwat was addressing a training camp of Sant Parivar cadres in Bhopal, where I live. I read that report. This part I read. He was doing a training program. He said in a training program, he said that when Prime Minister Vajpayee told us, that told Sangh Parivar, we are going to create provision for 26% FDI in defense sector. We said to no to them because we believe in Swadeshi. We said no to them. But now the new Prime Minister telling us we need to invest, create provision for 49% FDI. And we are being told this will make countries stronger and better defended. I think it's time that we accept what Prime Minister Modi is telling us. And the writer concluded by saying, because either the Sangh Parivar will change itself like it did, or if it does not change, it will be destroyed. Destroyed by the Indian state, under the control of Modi.
So it's more like...
It has changed.
No, so it's more getting itself in line with...
in line with the global agenda.
Ambani...
Yes, everybody. The Nagpur headquarters will become richer, there are more infrastructure, everything will be more money to travel all over.
So there's a new kind of nexus developing between Ambani and...
It has already developed. Already developed. Otherwise, Sangh Parivar would have not stood up with Modi, because Modi used public exchequer money in Gujarat. Gujarat to give such a loan to Tatas for Nano, which is very well known, at 0.1% annual rate of interest, 0.1. I did not believe, I thought it must be 1%. I reread it carefully, it was 0.1%. And the first installment will begin to flow in 25 years after. And 0.1% will not have any meaning. Even that running will not be there.
Even the...
So no protest came from Sangh Parivar. That way it was standing up with Tatas and Birlas and everyone.
So in FDI in the media is also increasing, right? Like
FDI in media is very big, very big. It already was very big.
Now it's going to be 49.
Yeah, now in media also defense.
Yeah.
And what other patriotism you want from Sangh Parivar?
I've got two questions here.
Yes. Yes.
I've got two questions on activism. One, I think it would be helpful if you can brief us about the protests happening in other countries against GATS. One.
Okay.
Two is that do you really think there is a serious need to rethink our forms of protest? I mean, rallies are fine, occupying is fine, but do you think we'll have to also rethink our strategies for them to be more effective?
Fortunately, we are not alone in our fight. US students are fighting a pitched battle against loans extended to them, which is the Mahamantra of the present government and the previous government also. Mahamantra of the UPA 1, UPA 2 and now this government. Because US has not been able to generate adequate jobs. So loans can be written only if there are adequate jobs, if the students are employed after graduation. We are fighting a pitched battle. No to loans, we shall not return. Students in Peru, totally indebted, also fought battle a few years ago, story about 2 or 3 years old. And there was no support coming to them, nobody was standing up for them in the government. So an old artist, and this is for Kaushik, new forms of struggle. An old artist did something miraculous. He collected from the students all their legal loan papers and put them on bonfire. I do not know whether that saved the student from returning the loan or not, but this is a form of struggle which is very important. We should take inspiration from that. We should take inspiration from the recent I must first also answer that teachers in United Kingdom have fought battles for last 10 years for stopping the neoliberal attack on British education system. The French students have fought similar battles. These battles are almost universal. And if you Google, you'll find, and please collect all the examples so we can make a booklet. Can I request the IIT students to make a booklet on all the struggles going against neoliberal attack in different countries on education system and prepare a booklet, we'll publish it and take it all over the country to inspire people. Very important contribution. May I appeal to all of you, please find a way to prepare such a booklet. Now, forms of struggle. We should take inspiration from the Occupy UGC movement. There's a reason why we should learn from them. Within 2 hours of the news reaching the student organization, I'm not naming any organization because they don't want to be named in this way. Not because of fear, because they don't want to be named, so that the broadest possible solidarity continues to function in the Occupy UGC movement. It's a decision by them. Otherwise, they don't mind being beaten up, being put in the prison. The Occupy UGC movement decided within 2 hours of the information coming to them about scrapping of non-net UGC scholarship that it is a WTO attack. Why is it a WTO attack? It's a WTO attack because WTO does not want any subsidies to go to the students or to educational institutions. It will not allow any element of social justice agenda. No scholarship, no stipend, no fellowships. Not just non-net UGC scholarship, no stipend, no fellowship, no scholarship, no hostels. I understand you are in real trouble because your hostel costs are going up. I was told about 35 to 45,000 rupees on average is paid by a student every year. For hostels, amazing. That means more than 80% of India's students cannot afford to study in IIT. Forget about a fees of 90,000. This hostel fees alone will disable them from coming to IIT, even if they may be brilliant students. So WTO-GATS coming in means social justice agenda being dismantled. This is bound to happen. And the leadership of Occupy UGC students understood within 2 hours. So when they wrote the first press release, is available, that we will not allow the government to scrap non-net, non-UGC net scholarships because it's part of WTO agenda on social justice. Attack on social justice. Not allowed. And they have stuck to it. And the later stage of the movement, when it became very well known and became really a resistance movement, they held a demonstration outside Shastri Bhavan of Delhi. You will do it at Shastri Bhavan of Chennai later. So at Shastri Bhavan of Delhi, the HRD headquarters, and when the demonstration could not be removed from Shastri Bhavan gate, then Smriti Irani came out herself. That was an amazing step taken by her to stop the student from continuing the demonstration. She said, look, you have these A, B, C, D, 4 demands. We have considered in the ministry, we agree to all of them, but we'll set up a committee to give a report, then we'll decide finally. For a while, students did not know how to respond, they never expected. But after few minutes, students understood what is being done to them. They said, madam, forget about those 4 demands. The real demand is WTO-GATS. You promised to withdraw it before 15th of December, then we'll stop our movement. Of course, to that there could be no answer. The movement has continued, not because of scholarship, also because of scholarship, because they said this is not just a demand of central university students, because non-net UGC scholarship was for central university, then now we are saying this should be expanded to all state universities. It should be enhanced and expanded. So when you go to UGC headquarters in Delhi on Bahadur Shah Zafar Bagh, you'll see one great dharna site, demonstration site, which has not been vacated for last or more than a month now, maybe 50 days. And it says, restore, enhance and expand to all state universities. So state universities are now activated in this. But then they say, in big letters, no to WTO. There's a metro station just next to it. On the walls of metro station written in big letters, no to WTO. So Times of India and many other famous newspapers attack them next day. They are spoiling the walls of metro. I wish the big newspaper written, the government is destroying our higher education, destroying the future of this country, future of next generation. And creating a new skilled workforce out of our students by forcing them to quit education. And this will be a new caste structure, new neo-Brahminical caste structure of imperialism. The old caste structure will be converted into a new Brahminical structure. I wish some media has talked about it. Instead of worrying about a few big letters written on the metro station wall. What is more important? The destiny of India and destiny of youth, or the walls of metro station? And those walls, in my opinion, look much more beautiful and more vibrant after that slogan is written to them, no to WTO. More powerful words. So these are the ways to fight back. But this Occupy UGC movement has also given strength to our understanding of how to mobilize and how to build movement, because it has taken the issue which touched the heart of all students receiving their scholarship all over the country in Central University. But they did not stop there. They took it to WTO. And then they also said, we want entirely free education from KG to PG, fully state funded, so that equal opportunity are guaranteed to all sections of society. Taken the agenda to a new vision of higher education. That's the vision of All India Forum also. Those two organizations are part of it, we have worked together. So, what is the lesson coming out of it for struggle? Kaushik wants to know that. We have envisioned a 3-tier struggle. We did it in Chennai. It was a Chennai conference. Very few people came from Chennai to participate, but people came from all over India, from Nagaland, Manipur, Meghalaya, from all parts of India in the Chennai conference in 2012. And the Chennai conference, we proposed a 3-tier agenda. It's documented, it's available on our website also. And 3-tier agenda says, people of this country get mobilized on issues of immediate attack on them, which is right in front of them. You take away a school teacher from a primary school in the village, and village people will get organized for restoring the school teacher, because otherwise their children will not be educated. Similarly, you take away scholarships, so students of all central universities get put up and they get organized. We don't stop there. To stop there, it will be end of the movement. That is only the first tier. The third tier is the vision of education, our alternative vision. A common education system, ensuring equality and freedom from discrimination, fully state funded, entirely free. Entirely means entirely. It does not mean exempt this fee or that fee. Means not a paisa should be spent by the parents or by the student in advancing himself in studies. And providing democratic, egalitarian education, building up a new citizenship, committed and dedicated to build a new society in India, as per our constitution, not as per market. It's our vision of education. The third tier, that's where we will reach. But in order to reach third tier, the second tier is the most crucial tier. Once you mobilize people, you have to take them to the second tier. In this case, Occupy UGC movement had understood the second tier is stopping WTO from destroying our higher education. That connects the first tier struggle of saving scholarship with the building of the alternative vision of building a new higher education, new education system from KG to PG. In order to reach there, we must stop commercialization, privatization, commoditization of knowledge. We must restore social justice. For doing that, it is important, crucial to stop WTO from entering higher education. The second tier is the most crucial tier, which connects first with the third tier. It's a 3-tier struggle. We learned this lesson by studying the struggles of our own history, various struggles, how people were mobilized, how they won battles. Without an alternative vision, no battle can be won. In fact, at this time, maybe I'm reminded of this very important story. I've written a whole book in Hindi on this. In Hindi, it's titled Sangharsh or Nirman, Struggle and Reconstruction. It's a documentation of the struggle of the mine workers led by Shankar Guhan Yogi in Chhattisgarh in 70s, 80s and early 90s. He was assassinated in 1993. He had to be assassinated because he said, no World Bank in Chhattisgarh in 1993. So therefore he had to be assassinated. But important point is how the struggle was built and how it was sustained. Built when the idea of struggle, which they were already waging and winning their battles for wages, this idea of struggle was connected with idea of reconstruction of their own vision of society. And Yogi wrote, if a human being wants to move forward and takes only the step of struggle or only the step of construction, then the human being will fall down, not be able to move forward. The step of struggle has to be in rhyme with the step of nirman or reconstruction. They both have to be in rhyme with each other. Then the working class will move forward and go to a long way. Therefore, in Yogi's movement, they created the old hospitals, unique hospital. It's never been created in India, that kind of hospital. The labor, mining workers created out of their own money. They created 12 schools for educating their children. They fought a historical battle against Steel Authority of India Limited in Bhilai Steel Plant, trying to totally mechanize collection of iron ore from the iron ore hills. They stopped that because that would have gotten rid of all mining workers. They prepared an alternative plan with help of engineering students of IIT Mumbai. Invited them to Chhattisgarh. They help us to make an alternative plan of mining in which 20,000 mine workers will be retained. Their livelihood will keep on coming, yet the necessary automation will be accepted to the extent it is going to help production. And that alternative plan was prepared, and that became the negotiating point on the tables of the negotiating table, the Steel Authority of India Limited. SAIL had no option but to agree. But that would have restored the livelihood of 20,000 mining workers. At the same time, we would have ensured production at low cost. The battle was won. And instead of total automation, it became a semi-mechanized mining arrangement. It continues. An alternative vision of the workers becomes possible when you combine their struggle with reconstruction. I think we can learn. The students can learn from this. We can learn. We need to learn from the struggle of mine workers who are all backward caste OBCs, Dalits and tribals, essentially illiterate. They created this vision of struggle. We don't learn from our own country. We keep learning from United States and Europe. We don't look what is available within our country. And this unique struggle, once I shared with the Latin American radical students, when I heard the story of this struggle, and there are many more things about it, they said something like this has not happened in the history of worker struggle, either in Europe or in Latin America, but they studied the history of struggle in both continents. Let's learn from mine workers. More questions?
I'm a lawyer, and here we have in Tamil Nadu we have an act called Fee Regulation Act.
Yes.
And a committee is appointed and headed by retired judge of High Court, and the committee fixes fees to the private schools, and that is followed by the parents have to pay that fee. And here there are parents gather as an organization, unions like that, parents union. Their fight is both legal fight and other kinds of battles only on the fees. And in the course, you helped us saying that the struggle should not be alone on the fees, and also on some aesthetic move.
On?
You had done something else. Epistemology something.
The attack on knowledge.
Yeah. I know. I want
it's
to
a
explain
Latin word in
simplified
English.
manner. Yes, simplified manner, so that we can suggest people to take other forms of struggles. Not only stick on to this fees, because we go to court and only the fight is focused against the private schools and the committee which fix the fee. And if we fail in the court, it's going round. Again we come to court. Again
you're very right.
There is no end at all. If it is clarified, some alternative things, so that we can.
Okay. I'll make 2 points. Very important question. Is Comrade Prince Gajen Babu sitting here? He's from Chennai. He's the leader of the state platform for common school system, Tamil Nadu. And you should invite him. We'll talk about these matters with great fervor. Because he's part of this battle. All these acts in Tamil Nadu in school education, he's very much part of it. In his absence, let me make an attempt. I cannot equal him in answering this question, but let me make an attempt. Fighting against fee hikes, fighting by parents against fee hikes is an old story. With increasing privatization, these struggles have increased in frequency and in numbers. They spread all over the country. I know the story in Haryana, near Delhi, where parents got together under the leadership of some good people and they did a demonstration against fee hike. They did it year after year, but the story of 1 year. And the private schools had hiked the fees by 100%. They sat in demonstration for 2-3 months, stopped the roads, traffic and all that. Eventually the district collector, who was responsible for all this, came and tried to negotiate with them. And then he said, all right, make a delegation, we'll have a committee process with the school management, and we'll come to some agreement. After that process, under the leadership of district collector, it was agreed by the private school management, we will increase it only by 50%, not by 100%. There were celebrations by the parents. And they did great celebrations, distributed sweets to each other. We won. They did not realize that actually the plan of the private management was to increase it only by 50%. They did it 100% because they knew one day they will be forced to negotiate. But the leadership which was external to parents knew that it's going to happen. So during the process they were trying to tell them, look, your battle is not going to end by stopping the fee hike. You must be ready to fight for building a common school system where rich and the poor study together. Start fighting for that battle. But that whole process of politicizing the movement, raising it from the level of from fee hike to a higher level to alternative vision building did not work out because there must have been some problems in that. But in Tamil Nadu, in several districts of Tamil Nadu, under the leadership of State Platform for Common School System, this has been achieved. Where private school, parents of sending their children to private schools have been organized against fee hikes, but they have agreed to fight for common school system with the state-funded common school system. We were amazed in 2012, July, when we came here to participate in Chennai conference, which was titled Chennai Conference Against Commercialization of Education and for Building Common School System. We were received at the station by people, different delegations from different states were received by different groups of teachers, there are different groups of people. They shook hands with us and said, we represent the parents association of that school or that school, private schools. The private school parents who were receiving us, then we found out the entire arrangement was done by them. They raised money for it, they donated money for the success of the Chennai conference. They're all private school teachers, parents associations working for state-funded, government-funded common school system. There, the leadership of State Platform was able to transcend the immediate issues of first year and go up to the third year. If this can happen in Tamil Nadu, it should happen all over the country. We should learn from Tamil Nadu. This is very important to realize. We have to win battles. We cannot say we could not win the battle. We have to win battle. And with that confidence, we should strategize. If they can strategize, we can also strategize. Yes. More questions? Yes.
I'm sure poorer members of the Sangh Parivar or the Modi government, people who are in support of the Modi government. But why and how are they blinded by this impending danger?
Why
are they blinded by this danger? Meaning, there are lots of poorer, I'm sure everyone who belongs to the Sangh Parivar or who are in support of the Modi government are not necessarily well off. But then they don't seem to be, there's no voice from inside the Sangh Parivar or speaking a single word against the WTO-GATT.
I'm sure you have read Noam Chomsky. He has given us a very powerful phrase. He said, there is a concept of manufacturing consent. Consent is manufactured by the powerful forces, the dominant forces, hegemonic forces of any society. So, a consent is being manufactured. And you are not allowed to critically question the upcoming policies. They are not questioning skilled India, not questioning digital India. Media are writing editorials after editorials in support of all these policies. And anyone who opposes it is condemned immediately by the media, by editorials. Editors, they are the leading intellectuals of the country. Everybody else remains silent. So if consent can be manufactured in the whole society, it can also be manufactured within Sangh Parivar. And then there is always a lollipop. Look, if you stick with us, there will be more benefits coming to you. If not in this election, maybe after next election. Lollipops are very important. More power to share. All the way up to village panchayat, from top to bottom. They have power to be shared. Even if a village panchayat sarpanch, the head of the panchayat position is shared, that's a very powerful position. At least to begin with in politics. So sharing power, distributing power and manufacturing consent is a very important political agenda in the country. Yes.
We have a history of revolutionary activism in the previous century. Do you think that the governments all around the world have been successful in changing that revolutionary thought into a process that we now ask for crumbs? That we now ask for small things instead of questioning this whole social system in a country.
Would you like to comment on it? This is a very good question. Any comments, any observations on this? I am sure you can link it with destruction of Soviet Union also.
Yeah, India did change its policy completely after the destruction of the Soviet Union. It was not aligned till that time, and then it completely has gone with the West now.
And after that, China changed the economic policy totally, almost around the same time, and became a leading country in advancing neoliberal agenda.
This applies
Forget about the days of Mao. They don't exist anymore. Mao is worshipped there like Gandhi is worshipped there. Here Ambedkar is worshipped the same way. So, see, the history of capitalism teaches us that capitalism knows how to deal with this crisis. For each crisis, there is a new strategy. And as I was telling you, TISA document tells us that the global financing crisis can be dealt with only by transcending WTO and creating TISA. That's what it's saying. So if they can think like this, you can imagine how Gorbachev was created. And when Gorbachev can be created and can destroy his own country's system, then it's a very simple thing to understand that after that everything just followed. And in our country there were already agents of global capitalism existing. It became very easy. See, who has questioned DPEP? Let me share the story. DPEP is sponsored, designed and sponsored by World Bank. Not by its money, by giving loans to us. No grant was given to us. Loans, which we are indebted until today. Amazingly. We are indebted to World Bank for letting World Bank destroy our school education system. But I never understood how Kerala's education system was destroyed until a few days ago when I went to Kannur to talk about WTO, but they made me talk about destruction of Kerala's school education system. I never understood until that visit. I kept on asking myself that for 100 years, from the days of Maharaja of Travancore, at that time not Travancore, Travancore, all kinds of state support was being given to build a powerful school education system, the best in India. Nothing could compare with Kerala's school education system. And today, it has totally been dismantled. And then in great detail, the school teacher organizations explained in a public seminar a few days ago at Kannur that it was World Bank DPEP which destroyed Kerala's education system. When they gave me the whole story, I said, look, then Kerala's destruction story is unique. In the rest of the country, these techniques were not used. The strategy of rest of the country I have shared with you. I have not shared with you how Kerala's system was destroyed. There, the World Bank knew that Kerala stands on a very strong foundation of good education. The teachers are highly unionized. They won't allow us to contractualize teachers or reduce the infrastructure, dilute the infrastructure. So they had a new strategy. destroy the ways in which teachers teach. Destroy the very foundation of knowledge in their curriculum and syllabus, whether social sciences or sciences, or language, literature. I don't have time right now. But the tool used by them is a epistemic tool. Madam, epistemic means knowledge. Is an epistemic tool called constructivism. I learned it from them only a few days ago. And it's amazing, these teachers, school teachers, who basically discuss things and learn things through Malayalam, have read papers, in research papers by educators from all over the world in English. They gave me all those papers, please take it and read it. And then you will understand, they told me, that how constructivism, based upon this very romantic idea that children construct their own knowledge, and let them construct their own knowledge, don't intervene. The teachers were told, don't intervene. One teacher told me, they told us in teacher training program, World Bank expert told us, Indian expert told us under the hegemony of World Bank also, that when children are constructing knowledge, even if it's wrong knowledge, you don't like it, you don't approve of it, let them construct, don't tell them anything, don't intervene, just watch. Therefore, you are not teacher, you are facilitator. Few years later, they were told, you are not facilitator, you are mentors. You are scaffolders. All kinds of euphemism was used to tell them not to teach. And the whole story of constructivism destroying their curriculum and their methods of teaching was shared with me in a public seminar. And then one teacher said, therefore, we are building a movement of teachers who are saying, allow us to teach. Give us right to teach. It's a right to teach movement we are building up in Kerala. And government is not allowing us. Look where World Bank has thrown us now. World Bank is agency of the global capital. 100 years of diligently building up a school education program in Kerala has been destroyed in 10 years, less than 10 years. Less than 10 years. And whole Kerala people are indebted to World Bank for having done that. Loans have to be returned by them and by the whole country. And we are all sleeping. We are all. Even a person like me who fighting in Western country was not aware this was a strategy used in Kerala. I learned it last week. There's so much to learn how neoliberal capital attacks us. There's so much to learn how to fight back. And let us keep learning about how to fight back. I wish Yogi was alive to guide us. He would have thought of creative ways of fighting back. Creative ways. Something along the lines Occupy UGC students sometimes. Unless we are as creative and as imaginative as a global capital is, we cannot win. And we have to be creative. Find new ways of struggle. There's a hand there. Yes. Please.
Okay, there are a couple of questions. And because my time is 7:40.
You have 5 minutes before you are pushed out of this hall.
Yeah.
I know. Yes.
Before that time.
Will you please demonstrate what you are saying that?
Fine. Yes. Understood? Yes. Back. Yes.
Will you please demonstrate once again what you are saying? Bring them to our war zone. And you have said an example that that circle, sphere, linear, patenting that, then that may be stalled capitalism.
I'm sorry, I'm not able to listen to you carefully. I'm listening carefully, not able to understand.
Yes.
Can you speak a little louder?
Yes.
Yes.
Will you please demonstrate once again what you are saying? Bring them to our war zone. You have in your lecture you have told
Freedom to?
bring them
Shifting the battleground.
Our own, creating our own battleground.
battleground. For that you have said an example that the circle, sphere and the linear.
Yes,
thing may
I
be-
took the most powerful example.
Yes, the pattern,
Yes.
pattern right, then the capitalism may be stalled, that type of
Yes.
thing. It's not quite understandable to me. Why? Why?
You
Because
see,
you have stating another thing that the people mass movement and that type of thing.
no,
And I am afraid that these type of things may be a postmodernistic.
No, I'm not saying do it, but I'm telling you, give me
I
idea
want
of.
I want a clarity on that.
Okay, thank you. Let me clarify. I'm not saying it cannot even be done. It cannot be done. But that should excite our imagination to think of which is doable. This what I suggested is not doable. But something doable can be conceived if we are willing to think. Okay, may I use the term of the capitalism, out of the box thinking. I gave that example because that means this. If the knowledge is patented under TRIPS, trade-related intellectual property rights, then anyone who uses knowledge has to pay for it. You know that our turmeric is being patented, our basmati rice is being patented, our old Ayurvedic medicines are being patented, and they become source of money. And we keep fighting back with under TRIPS to save our traditional knowledge. So if you patent how to make a wheel, which is old knowledge, because basmati rice and turmeric is also old knowledge, then I said capitalism will be stalled. It will run into a crisis from which it cannot come out. We will have to pay so much money to that holder of the patent. It won't be able to come out. This is what I mean. So this is not what is doable or even desirable. But many other things are desirable and doable. Like Occupy UGC students have drawn the entire route because they cannot engage with it. They do not know what to do. When I saw the Occupy UGC demonstration site, I was amazed. At Bahadur Shah Zafar Marg, at the media center of India, where all the big media is present in Bahadur Shah Zafar Marg, ITO, they have occupied several square meters of place and nobody is willing to touch them. Nobody is there. Courage. Police just stands and smiles. They created a battleground for themselves. This is very important. There will be atrocities. They have faced already atrocities. There will be more atrocities. Eventually they'll have to roll up from there. But in the meantime, they have shown that we can fight. This is all what I mean. Like, if you want to, I'll take a story from Yogi's movie. Beautiful story. And can we maybe conclude from that? He wants that. Beautiful story. I'll make it as short as possible. During the struggle against total automation of iron ore mines in 1980s, it's a documented story. When heavy machines, computerized machines were brought in by SAIL, Steel Authority of India Limited, to replace the workers from Eastern Europe. They were imported from Eastern Europe. They were all huge giant machines. I've seen them. Giant machines. They were bigger than the size of the auditorium. They were all standing waiting to be taken up the hill for digging up, excavating iron ore. It's one of the richest sources of iron ore in the world. So they had to go through on a road which was passing in front of the union office of Chhattisgarh Mine Shramik Sangh. So 20,000 families and all their sympathizers, supporters, they came and lied down on the road and blocked the road. Women, because women are also workers with the men. Both men and women are workers. The machine could not be taken. After almost a month had passed, Steel Authority was getting upset, the central government was getting upset. So eventually a district collector knew what to do. He sat in his jeep, drove the jeep himself without any police escort and went up to the union office and sought an appointment with the leadership of the workers. So they sat together and the collector said to Niyogi that I've always heard through media reports that you respect the law and you respect the constitution. But you are now breaking the law because you are occupying a road which belongs to Bhilai Steel Plant. It belongs, it has been handed over by Madhya Pradesh government to Bhilai Steel Plant on a lease. It belongs to Bhilai Steel Plant. How can you occupy it? You're not allowed to occupy it. Then otherwise I'll say you're breaking the law. He just drank tea and said this and walked out. Yogi said, give me 24 hours. I'll give you the response. They had a meeting of all the mine workers and they decided upon a strategy. You know what was the strategy? They opened a topology map in front of them of that area. Topology map. They looked at the topology of that whole area carefully. They found a place where they can win the battle, a village. Next morning, they told the district collector in writing they are lifting the occupation of the road. They lifted the occupation. All the 20,000 plus people moved to that village on a small kacha road going through the village habitation and occupied that. When the machines had to pass through that village and came and stopped, the collector asked, Niyogi, how can you do this? You are again breaking the law. He said, no, we are not breaking the law this time. This 100-meter patch does not belong to either the Madhya Pradesh government or to the Bhilai steel plant. It belongs to the village panchayat. And village panchayat, the Sarpanch is standing here in our support. He is given in writing that they can do this. And the machines had to go back, they never went up the hill. Until he was assassinated. After assassination, he went up the hill. He had to be assassinated. I hope we can excite our imagination and inspire us. Yes?
Sir, while I largely agree with your point, the point you made about DPP with reference to Kerala, I am afraid I'll have to disagree a bit.
Okay.
Because my mother herself was a teacher over there, government aided school. This argument is put forward only by a small section of teachers. Maybe they might have a point here and there, but largely you can ask any person who has appeared in IIT or any of the central or even university who has got educated after the 98, that DPP period once was, what is a significant change in education that has happened in Kerala? It has not destroyed education. I would totally beg to differ with that. They ask students to ask questions, and when they ask uncomfortable questions, teachers were also a bit afraid. We have to agree that we live in a largely conservative society. So, not all questions from teachers were that readily addressable to that level, which might be a systemic problem or there might be other issues. But it is wrong to say that this is entirely some World Bank agenda, because some of the best proponents of this have been rated the best education system in the world.
I'm aware
like
of
Finnish education system.
No, this is not finished, please. There I will disagree, rest is all right. It's not Finnish education system. They don't romanticize constructivism.
No, I'm not talking about constructivism. For example, the Swedish exchange students came in there and they were performing much better than our own +2 or pre-degree students.
I like your question,
yeah.
because I like to conclude on a note of dissent and disagreement. It's better to conclude on dissent and disagreement so that dialogue continues. But let me point out, yes, you are right. India's best known education praised DPEP in Kerala. They praised DPEP all over the country. You're absolutely right. I know all of them personally. They're either old colleagues or friends. But what does that mean? Entire academia is in agreement with higher education being handed over to WTO. What does that mean? The best known education is agreed with 1986 policy. They worked under the umbrella of 1986 policy. They praised non-formal education. They romanticized non-formal education. This is a revolutionary step to reach out to the poor, the child laborers. They admired the National Literacy Mission.
It's a bit like Glasnost.
Yeah. National Literacy Mission. They worked with NLM. They became paid workers in NLM, which claim year after year that we have created 100% literacy in this district, that state, here and there. And those very districts are still struggling to become literate. Even today, after 1990s, again being made literate. Even Ernakulam, the most literate district of Kerala, even that district is struggling to become literate. So, academia being adjusted by the powers that be is an old story. Very old story. Even during British Raj, my friend, it was only a an exceptional academic person who stood up and went outside the university and stood up with the freedom movement. Rest all kept on teaching and researching happily. So this cannot be no argument that best educationists of the country sided with the Kerala's DPEP. They sided with the whole DPEP. They worked in DPEP. They got 3,000 rupees on video per day. Per day they got 3,000 rupees on video. Because World Bank wrote in 1990, before coming to India, that we are going to have a problem in India. It's a report. That we are going to have a problem in this country. Working in Latin America and Africa was easy. But India has a very long tradition of intellectualism. Old tradition, they say. And there they will question us. They'll understand us. They'll decode us. Therefore, for India, we have to have a very special strategy. Then they listed their strategic steps. Number one, invite Indian academia, the best one, to attend international conferences. Provide them international funding to hold international conferences in their own universities. Provide them international funding for doing projects after projects. Keep them busy and fund them so that intellectual tradition of India can be demolished, dismantled and taken over and co-opted. He did it successfully, otherwise DPEP would have been stopped right then. When Right to Education Act 2009 was in Rajya Sabha, I will not name anyone, and we were opposing tooth nail even the draft bill, even before it went to Rajya Sabha. Because it was a bill not to provide any right to children. It was a bill to provide right to make profit to corporate capital from education, school education, elementary school education, not even secondary and senior secondary. So when we were fighting that battle, I remember I made many attempts trying to see how we can stop it. So went to a very famous right to education academician and activist, who was in the leadership of advocating right to education. I said to that person, I'm not revealing whether him or her, I said to that person, I have a suggestion for you. Let's collect 100 intellectuals of our country, leading intellectuals. We'll write a memorandum. They will sign it. We'll write a memorandum with a critique of this act. Send it to the Prime Minister and try to stop it. And I was told, I will not be part of any exercise of that kind. I went around, along with our own group organization, to many intellectuals. First in Bhopal, then in other cities of Madhya Pradesh, then outside in Delhi and Delhi University, JNU. I could tell only 5 members of academia would say, yes, we see the argument which you are saying. We'll sign it. Rest said, you are crazy? How can you oppose right to education act? It's giving for the first time fundamental right status to, is called Hyderabad Declaration, available on our website. In 2009 we wrote that with this act, rate of privatization of school education will be accelerated. Not just it will happen, it will be accelerated. Government school system will be destroyed. Schools will be sold out, outsourced. All what we said in 2009 has come to be true. Yet, academics and intellectuals did not stand with us. We are proud of it that we were right, sad because India has lost another generation of young children who could have gotten better education. That's why we are sad. Nothing to rejoice that we turned out to be right. It tells us how to analyze policy, how to decode laws, acts, and understand and get to the truth. And when I give training for policy analysis, I tell people we are going to learn today how to read the white spaces between 2 printed lines. The white spaces say more than the printed lines. We require help. But, my young friend, please differ. And continue to differ so that we will continue dialogue with each other. We'll meet again and again. And more the dissent, more is a democratic practice of dialogue. I'm happy with it. Thank you.
So that's one last question.
Okay, you decide. Yes.
No, the time is 8 o'clock actually. We're supposed to be, so the finish of the, it's at 7:30.